Hello.
Hello. Hi. Welcome to
Hi.
today's session.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah, I actually kind of already have an idea of the direction that I want to go, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, no, of course. What do you want to do?
All right. Well, I've been struggling with something specific. I am kind of worried about my memory. Uh,
Hmm. Okay.
I'll, things will happen and I'll just kind of like not really remember them. And I don't know if it's because the things that happen are sort of inconsequential or they just don't feel important or or are boring or kind of or if I just purposely push them out of my memory because they're unpleasant. um
Hmm.
I think a good sort of case study for this is I I watched a film called Blonde.
Oh, as in the gentleman prefer variety?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. It's a film by Andrew Dominick, famously director of The Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford.
Hmm.
And also the Tim and Eric skit, the Tim Heidecker skit, Killing Them Softly. Uh, and I don't really remember anything that happened in Blonde.
Well, to be fair, I think a film like Blonde is what we in the business like to call a mixed bag.
Mmm.
In that a lot happens in it,
Uh-huh.
but kind of nothing does.
Okay. All right, let me see if I can piece together what I can remember. Just kind of piece together the movie. We can create like an image of the film, an
Right. Well, let's
outline.
let's start with something simple. Do you remember what aspect ratio the movie was in?
All of them.
Yeah. No. That's okay. All right. That's a
All
good
right.
start.
Cool, I remembered that. It was in all of them. It was in there was some TikTok stuff in there if I remember correctly.
Yeah. There's a part where it looks like the YouTube stabilization algorithm
Uh-huh.
uh on a cell phone video.
There's a part where the movie went 1 bit and it was just a long line on the screen.
Okay, but if they did like and here's like a part where it's like an 8-bit segment, I'd have been like, I gotta give you 5 stars. That's experimental filmmaking.
That's crazy. That's just crazy enough to work.
Yeah.
Okay, so I remember she's a child and her mother is crazy and freaking out and trying to kill her.
Hmm.
Um and I remember fire. There's they're driving through fire and there's fire on the ceiling.
Yeah, and her mother turns to her and says, "Fire, walk with me."
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
that part.
and the film opens with the like, look, Norma, that's your motif. Look, Norma, a recurring image that will appear throughout this movie.
Mmm. Look, Norma, images.
And it kind of was like set up like that picture of the one shitty 3D smiling emoji with the thumbs up, but it's like on a wall with a massive crack in it. It's like literally set up exactly like that shot, but it's a photo of some guy.
Yes. You're gonna have to send me that because I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'll put it in the
Okay.
video. Yeah. So I mean, like, we're starting off. We have this vision of childhood, very dreamlike, which is kind of actually a thing that I remember appreciating about it. Like it feels like a child's nightmare for the first 20 minutes. And then that style seems to kind of persist in a way that is really uncomfortable, especially in a movie that is definitely very accused of infantilizing a complex figure from history. Well, I mean, okay, other stuff I remember. I guess Joyce Carol Oates wrote a fucking thing. It wrote some fanfic about Marilyn Monroe, and that's what this movie is about.
I would call it a crack fic, I think is what the
Okay,
terminology is.
great. Yeah, I, I don't. This is like some East Coaster shit. I don't understand this whole entire thing. I don't understand why you'd make like a fake. Well, I guess I can piece it together. I can piece together the artistic intent. I haven't read any Joyce Carol Oates anything other than her tweets, which are masterpieces, each and every one.
I was just talking about this with someone where it's like, God, who did I put it as? It was like just one of those like just like a banger tweeter. Hold on. I said she's to girls' Twitter what Trump was to boys' Twitter.
Yeah,
Where it's
yeah.
just the way she talks is so funny that like
Yes.
you kind of if you would get exposed to it too much and you just start like working in some of like her ways of like tweeting because she's just good at it. Like she's good at Twitter.
She's yeah, absolutely. She has this sort of Richard Dawkins aura about her posting. Yeah. And so, who better to deliver us a film about? I guess Marilyn Monroe. There was a long time. The dust has long since settled because we're poor. We can't afford to go out on opening weekend and buy tickets like that. We gotta wait for the fucking torrents and shit.
One,
Uh,
also neither of us have Netflix at this point because like fuck you if you think I'm paying for Netflix.
yeah, for real. $20 a month. Fuck you. So yeah, so I mean, like, there's obviously a deep well of drama and a deep well of insane takes and posting that we could, dip our ladle into.
Yeah, I think a good way to put it is that it's like we wanted to wait for people to move on because the discourse was really annoying.
It was very annoying.
And we just like we don't want to talk about this movie while people are like having like the two opinions being like this no movie should ever feature a metaphoric depiction of the treatment of women in the Hollywood system by showing bad things happen. And then the flip side of that is like I think the movie should have had more rape in it.
Yeah. The full spectrum
Yeah,
of
the really the two opinions that people had, which kind of made watching it really underwhelming.
this movie has plenty of rape,
Yeah,
actually. That's
I,
where I stand on it. That's my official
yeah.
decree.
I feel like how do I want to put this? I think people need to. I think people, including people who position themselves as like pro shocking art,
Uh-huh.
need to like see more shocking art because this is like not really that big of a this is like not really that interesting of a film.
No, it's really not. I mean, like, I don't know. It's a difficult situation because I don't want to be put in a position where I'm like if I accuse this film of being masturbatory and misogynistic, which it definitely is unquestionably.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
like I don't want to be put in the camp of tender queers who don't think that this stuff it's possible to depict this stuff, especially if you're a male director. It's just a matter of like if you're a male director and you do this, you do make yourself an easy target. It's like going to school with "kick me" on your back. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
except instead of "kick me," it's like you're kicking everybody else in the shins.
I think the big problem, and this is a problem that I'd put on Blonde as well as all the way to on the worser end of the spectrum, like Men,
Yeah,
is that if you're gonna make a movie like this as a male director, you gotta be willing to like kind of admit you might be a bit of a misogynist.
yeah,
Um, because I feel like there's a level of hedging your bets that happens here that like you're not gonna get in a Lars von Trier film, for better or worse. You're not gonna get, for better like Lars von Trier, for better or worse, will hire a misogyny consultant for his movies to make it more misogynist.
oh yeah,
Um, and I just feel like if you're gonna like make a movie like this, it's not like, oh, you should go whole hog and be worse about it. But you
hmm
gotta be like a little more like you don't need to beat over the audience's head what you're doing because that comes off like more like okay, so this is like a weird misogyny thing, but you don't want to like confront that in yourself. So you're like, man, it sucks the way dudes in the 50s treated broads. I would never do this to you.
I would never do this to you, ladies.
Like, that's what it comes off as. It just comes off as 3 hours of I would never do this to you.
It's been a lot of films like that in the Pantheon recently.
Yeah. And I'm just like I don't want to be like, if you're going to be a misogynist, at least be interesting. But I am. I am going to be like that. If you're going to be a misogynist, at least be interesting.
Yeah. And like, I don't know. I wish I could be one of those people who knew dick about dick. I don't know. I don't care about Marilyn Monroe, really. I don't care about Joyce Carol Oates. I certainly don't care about Joe DiMaggio or Arthur Miller or any of these kind of tertiary characters. I did watch like a couple of other things. I watched that fucking weird, awful movie that the last movie Marilyn Monroe made, that Arthur Miller wrote. Bored to tears by it. I read a little bit of Arthur Miller's like tell-all sort of old guy reflections on Marilyn Monroe. It was illuminating, but I was also bored to tears by that. I don't know. Who fucking cares? Who fucking cares about whether Ana de Armas looks like Marilyn Monroe? She does okay, I guess. I
will say, okay, in her defense, there was a lot of performances that she had in this where I was like, man, if you had like a better script,
yeah,
you would be knocking it out of the park. Because I feel like every line every scene or moment that I really like comes off as if it was probably taken more or less directly from the novel, because it has a very like novel logic framework or like way of talking or presenting to it.
Yeah.
And those feel like the scenes where she's the strongest. And then the scenes that are just like I sent Baru this while I was watching the movie. There's an old Connor O'Malley skit where he's doing, if you want to get into like to like disrespectful depictions of dead celebrities, there's an old Connor O'Malley skit where he's playing Johnny Carson and they have one of the actresses come out as Anna Nicole Smith, and she eats a cigarette. And they're like, didn't you die? And she's like, I did die, but I'm back. And then there's just a part where she just stands up and she goes like, do you like my body? And just keeps repeating that while the audience just fucking goes insane. And it's just close-ups of sweaty men jerking off while she's just repeating that over and over. And it literally looks like a scene in this film.
It is but a scene in Blonde.
It's a scene that happens twice in this movie. And I was like, wow, this conveyed this movie's intent in like a 2-minute bit in a larger skit.
Yeah, like at a certain point, like I can appreciate sort of slow tracking shots and you know, all sorts of like dreamlike imagery or whatever, but the full, like, some of what we saw was like drooling men leering over a drug addict woman.
Yeah,
it's enough to convince me that the reality of that situation, wasn't so great. Marilyn Monroe probably had a mixed bag of a life. She sure did not have a lot of fun. But at the same time, like, it's the seeing of it and the sort of demand of, like, she needs to get raped on screen 8 zillion times, and she needs to have JFK come in her mouth while fireworks explode on the TV.
Well, on a phone call that's like, sir, bad news, you're getting 1960s Me Too'd. like what?
Like, okay, yeah, men are bad, I guess. I don't know, whatever.
This like, poor dame, she's just looking for a daddy, but every man betrays her. This guy beat her. This guy wrote down a dialogue exchange that they had. I guess is the problem there.
She's just looking for a daddy to make her pregnant, which is what all women want to be, and she wants to talk to her baby fetus
Oh god, the baby,
via
the talking to the fetus talking to her part is
fucking
so fucking bad.
and
That's like one of
telepathy.
those things that like I'm assuming was probably in the novel, but again, there's a type of logic and thing that you can put in a novel that works because it can be understood as a character's internal like mindset
Yeah.
that does not work when what you do is just put on screen Anna de Armas looking at her stomach and going, "Baby?" You're talking to me?
Well, you're the same baby as the other one. Oh,
No,
these-
no, I won't hurt you. I didn't want to get the abortion.
I'm sorry, baby.
Oh,
Yeah. Also the miscarriage scene where she like tumbles on the beach and just falls on her stomach, and there's like gallons and gallons of blood that shoot out of her pussy. Uh,
um,
Definitely realistic. Definitely like not silly or anything. Normal.
I, I think in regards to like people talking about like, oh, well, the film's really experimental, and it's like, sort of for like a Netflix movie. Um, the thing about it that like stuck out to me was how many sequences, and that's a great one, where it's like the film is like this experimental air quotes like mediation whatever, but it also assumes the person watching it is fucking stupid. Because there's like the scene where she's on the set of Some Like It Hot, and then he's like, "You're not dumb, just clumsy." And then she gets this like look on her face of like shock and like unease, and it's like, okay, in a competent film, they would assume that their actress is strong enough to give her performance that the thing that just happened like 10 minutes ago, the audience is going to remember, so that they're like, "Oh, that like is really triggering to her because it's a moment of her confusing the character she's playing on screen for the person she is in real life, for the character she plays in real life." And so when she's called not dumb but clumsy, it reminds her of when she like was clumsy and tripped and fell and had a miscarriage. But the movie's just like, no, they're not going to be able to put that together. Let's cut back to the miscarriage. And it does that like multiple times. There's like the part when she meets Joe DiMaggio and he's like, "How'd you get your start in film?" Again, she gives a great performance that totally could convey to the audience she's having a PTSD moment of remembering like the sexual violence that she was met with when she entered the studio system, but they just show it again. Like I fucking forgot that it happened 10 minutes ago.
Right. Yeah. Not not a very smart film. I mean, there was that fucking interview segment floating around where it was Andrew Dominick being like, gentlemen for stupid. All of her movies are stupid. She's stupid, stupid woman. He said pretty much exactly that. I'm not paraphrasing. He basically was like, Marilyn Monroe, stupid woman. I hate women. And that exact quote ran in the interview article. No, but I mean, like, he doesn't really seem to care um so much about her past, kind of using her as this like weird Barbie, which I guess is tonally watertight with a movie that's about
Yeah.
how she spent her life being a Barbie for kind of male desires or whatever. I guess that's how he sees her.
It's And that's like the other thing is that's like the film also and that whole hedging its bets things. The film like wants it both ways where he clearly kind of views her as like a brain dead sex pot.
Mm-hmm.
But then they'll have these moments of like she tells Arthur Miller, "Oh, this character you wrote who's clearly based on like a woman that you were obsessed with only pretended to read your poems cuz she's illiterate." And he's like, "My god, I never thought of that." Or like, "You read this book? My god, this dame's got brains." But it's like
Wow.
it doesn't come off as convincing because then like you don't see her reading. You don't see her act in any way outside of these moments that are very like, girls can have brains too. And it's like just if you don't view her that way, don't try to hedge your bets by putting this in there. Because as it turns out, even if she's dumb, bro, she doesn't deserve to be treated like that. Like this idea that, like, oh, isn't it tragic that she's not stupid and thus it is unacceptable to treat her this way?
Yeah. 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 God, that's a very good point. There's a lot of that going on here. Um,
it's just tonally all over the place with like what it wants to do, and I assume it's just a tension between it's an adaptation of something written by a woman who is like of the actual age range where she probably grew up when Marilyn Monroe was like a relevant figure to her life, and thus has like, you know, more of a probably complicated relationship to her as an icon of like femininity, and she wrote it in like fucking 2000,
yeah.
versus a guy in 2022 making a adaptation of that where it's just like his relationship to that image is, I don't know, maybe he remembers like the Britney Spears meltdown stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he might have been. Andrew Dominick is 55. He might have been around for a little bit of Marilyn, but probably not very much. I don't think at all. Wait, when the fuck did she die? She died. I don't even know when she
She
died.
died like before Kennedy,
Oh
so
no,
I
she
think
died. She died when he was a child. So no,
yeah.
no, never mind. Absolutely not.
Which, sidebar, complete cowardice. I found out that in the book, Marilyn Monroe is assassinated by JFK.
That's why would you not put that in the fucking
Right?
movie?
That's so fuck. That is such a fucking like. If you're gonna like fuck with like, if you're gonna do something like this where it's like you're kind of playing around with like reality, why would you not go with that?
Yeah.
Like that's such a better ending to this film.
Well, why are you trying to be on both sides of the fence as far as being like a biopic slash like a not biopic? You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, so we can have this part where she has a throuple with Charlie Chaplin's son and this other asshole. That sadly never happened.
I was so sad to hear that. I was
Yeah.
like, that's so badass of her.
Yeah, Marilyn Monroe did not normalize polyamory, unfortunately. Which, shame on her for not doing that. Uh, but yeah, to kind of toss out certain elements of Joyce Carol Oates' stuff and just be like, actually, we're gonna talk about what really happened to her. She died of an overdose. Uh, great. Thanks, I guess. I already knew that. I knew about that.
And she died of an overdose because she was really sad about about her dad not emailing her.
I guess Charlie Chaplin's son is the reason Marilyn Monroe is dead, which I'm sure the Chaplin estate would love to would love.
And what is the Kennedy estate going to do if they had it actually end of JFK assassinating her?
I
Oh,
wonder.
Kennedys famously don't kill women that they're involved with. Okay.
Yeah, I kind of wonder that too. It's like, have the Kennedys just been beaten up enough by quote unquote the media? Probably not. They probably deserve more. But I don't know what's going on with the Kennedy family. Why can't we depict this? The other reason I wanted to come in today and talk to you, therapy wise, is I don't really know what to do with myself since Pussycam.
Oh God, the double pussy cam. I forgot about that.
Pussycam, it happens a lot in this
Yeah.
film. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I'm speechless about it. There was a lot. I mean, like, okay, making movies, the magic of making movies, Hollywood. Uh, there's a bunch of like body mounted like gimbal shots or whatever. There's really hilarious one of Joe DiMaggio just running around the house being like, "Come here, woman, I'm about to beat
It's,
you."
it's like almost camp. Like the film teeters so close, and it would have been so much better if it was like full Mommy Dearest.
Oh
Which again,
yeah.
another great example of like if you're gonna do a character assassination film, like have fun with it.
Have fun. Absolutely. Mommy Dearest is incredible. It's the model for this kind of thing.
The
And instead we got Forrest Gump for her or whatever.
Yeah, for her Gump.
Jesus.
The like scene when they force her to have an abortion again, And then she wakes up and she's like, "Oh, what a terrible dream!" And then she just moves the pillows and she's just covered in blood. And she just stumbles away like, "Oh, a terrible dream that I just had." I was like, "This is so fucking goofy." How are you? How am I supposed to look at this and not laugh? Like, this is such a that is a fucking because it's not just like she opens it and there's like a bit of blood there that you can notice. She lifts it and she's like literally coated in blood from like the waist down. Like, how is that not a comedy play?
Yeah. I feel like this movie itself is on barbiturates.
It would have been better. I just I just keep I the scene when she's fucking Cass and Eddie, and then they turn into like they're on a waterfall fucking, and then it's an ad for the movie Niagara, and they're like jerking her off in the theater while watching it. I was just like, this is what people are like, wow, it's a really experimental film. I'm like, this is like, it's stupid. It's just a lot of really stupid choices. Every time there's a cool experimental shot or like concept or interest, like I like the massive crowds, I like the weird awful CGI mouths. Um there's like an incredibly stupid one, like they fuck on a waterfall, or she flees from her abortion and runs into her childhood home that's on fire again, and then
Yeah.
opens a drawer that has a baby in it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I Yeah, I don't know. What is there to say? Like, it's so nakedly, like, it's obviously so nakedly misogynistic. Like, I don't think it was worth the Twitter arguments. Like, we
Yeah.
see what's happening here.
And again, the problem is that whenever people want to argue stuff about that, they like they don't want to accept that like they could yield that something is misogynistic but still has like value as an art form or as like an art piece.
Yeah.
And so the conversation just gets hung up on that.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you end up with the arguments we are talking about before, where it's like it's either like any depiction of this is inherently bad and you shouldn't do it, and it's a bad movie if you do this because it's upsetting, or it's like actually it's good to depict that and it's never misogynistic, and you can't critique a film for its very obvious tonal implications. And because then if you did, that would imply that the movie might not be good.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes it simply isn't.
Sometimes, like that's the saddest part of it all, is all of that, and it's still a Netflix movie. Netflix got you guys. Netflix got you guys to talk about a movie they made.
Ugh. That Netflix finds a fucking way.
The fucking machine is getting way too smart.
I had to spend like a year thinking about Stranger Things because of what they've done. What they've done to Kate. What they've done to Miss Bush.
Oh
Like,
god.
for better and for worse.
The amount of times I've gone to like artists that I enjoyed when I was like in my early 20s, late teens, and now there's like Zoomers there, which to our Zoomers in the audience, we love you. Stop sitting on the floor at a concert. Are you fucking crazy?
Oh my god,
That's
I'll kick you in the head.
disgusting.
I will
That's
kick you in the head if I see you
I've
doing
gone to
that.
I've gone to so many shows where it's like, oh, this song was in like a Netflix show called like Why I'm Gay, and now there's a bunch of like kids dressed like 100 Gex characters sitting on the floor. And I'm like, bro, that's where people like stand with their shoes that are outside. Like, what are you doing? You're gonna get a disease. Didn't we just have a pandemic? What are you doing?
Get up off the goddamn floor. You're not a dog. I mean, maybe you are a dog.
I mean, some of them probably are dogs.
Yeah. I take it back, but still, that is not the place even for a dog.
Yeah, I wouldn't bring a dog I wouldn't put a dog on the concert floor. There's a reason why if you get knocked over in the mosh pit, everyone stops to pick you up. Like it's a safety hazard.
Tripping hazard, absolutely. Yeah. I don't know. Just a very it's top to bottom just kind of frustrating. It's a very expensive film that was a lightning rod for uh a bunch of basically a bunch of queer people getting angry at each other because of what a rich idiot man, white man, did with a bunch of actors. Uh, I don't know. I guess I would be like, what did you think of Adrian Brody? But it's like, what is there to think? What is there to think about anything here?
Yeah, no, I don't know. He was on screen.
He was there. He
He
showed
was
up.
visible for most of the shots.
Uh-huh. You know, he was present. He arrived. I suppose the playwright Arthur Miller was a part of Marilyn Monroe's life. That is so true, bestie.
I feel like if this film didn't have like massive discourse, I would have got through the first hour and I would have stopped and we would not have done an episode on it. Because
Yeah.
I had to watch this in like 3 sittings because I just kept getting like annoyed and not even like, again, not mad because it's disrespectful or even mad because it's misogynistic. I just kept getting mad because it's just a fucking annoying movie.
It's I feel like there's a subset of theater kid nonsense that's like it's like learned theater kid nonsense. It's like, oh, you know about bygone eras of the theater and of Hollywood, which is nothing typically to be ashamed about. But I feel that the tone that is taken by a lot of people, I mean, it's no wonder there are so many like millennials and Zoomers who are off put and who just don't want to know anything about anything because of the pretension
Yeah.
exhibited by these people.
I
And I think this movie is
relatedly,
supposedly for them.
yeah. I was gonna say relatedly, it is super funny how much I saw people who definitely don't know anything about Marilyn Monroe who were just like, this is so disrespectful to her legacy. So many things that happened that didn't even really happen. And it's like you have not thought about Marilyn Monroe in probably 5 years before this movie came out.
Marilyn Monroe is like an elf on the shelf to you if you're like a millennial or a Zoomer. Like she's like a painting of Jesus Christ that hangs in your parents' home. She is
They're just like, there isn't
meaningless.
even a scene where she puts on a Chicago Bulls jersey and pulls out 2 guns. Like, there's
Yeah,
not even that happens in the film. Where's her tattoos? Like,
right.
she doesn't smoke.
Oh
She doesn't.
god.
She doesn't say "look like Marilyn, smoke like Marley."
Her famous line. That's shit she always used to say.
And where's
Yeah.
the cake? Where's the cake that she pops up out of and goes, "Happy birthday, Mr. President"?
Oh god, I feel like that scene should have been a shoe-in.
I am actually surprised that he had the restraint to not reference that.
Yeah. That like a restraint that is nowhere else in this film. Which is it's like you might as well have. You might as
Yeah.
well have put it in. I think they have it in the 2001-ish mini-series for Blonde that they also made.
Oh yeah, I saw that when I was looking up a bit about the movie.
Yeah,
I was
because
semi interested, but
Blonde is apparently a book that's been kicking around for 20 years at this point.
yeah, no, I was reading up on it, and I guess like at one point Naomi Watts, like 10 years ago, there was a time when this movie was going to get made with my Naomi Watts, which is insane. That would have been such a. I'm just like trying to imagine that. That's like such a different movie.
The miniseries departed from the novel in leaving out the idea, which Oates discusses at length, that Monroe may have been assassinated. What is going on?
I mean, that is a real conspiracy. I will say that.
Yeah, it's like we can put all this other fucking stupid dumb shit in our adaptations. We can put in her thruple, whatever. Who cares? But no, she was there. There's no way we're putting in the part about her being assassinated by the Kennedy family.
And it's like weird because like thematically, that's so much better than like she kills herself.
Yeah, that would have made me love the movie if that's how it
Like,
ended.
because that's so much. That's just a lot more like, I don't know. That's really poignant. That it's like her whole life is defined by what men do to her. So of course her death would also be defined by what men do to her.
Yeah. exactly. But I mean, like, I don't know. They found another reason for men to cause her death. A much more annoying and stupid reason, no less.
I think honestly, an even bolder choice would have just be like, she doesn't die. she,
She's actually
she
still
actually just
alive.
she actually just like quit acting and disappear. That would have been like such a ballsier ending.
God. Oh, Susie Kennedy, an English Marilyn Monroe impersonator and historian for over 20 years, openly despised the film.
uh, I do love this. I love these set of quotes from Dominic.
Uh-huh.
Let me see here. Why is Marilyn Monroe the great female icon of the 20th century? For men, she is an object of sexual desire that is desperately in need of rescue. Don't think that's necessarily true. For women, she embodies all the injustices visited upon the feminine, a sister, a Cinderella, co-signed to live among the ashes. Also not really true about like the um
Women famously see a woman who is we're dipping into the hot passing
yeah.
privilege. We can't go down that road.
God, I forgot about that. That was a fun sidetrack of the discourse about this film.
You know, that discourse is almost enough to argue that this film is camp. Like that
Yeah.
discourse existing, because that was so fucking funny. Uh and also, like, there was like a counter, there was this whole argument about it, and there was like this counter discourse of just like, you know, well, people being like, "Oh, Joyce Carol Oates, she's just an old biddy. She's not sexy. She can't write about a sexy woman." And then people being like, she was a baddie when back in the day." God, just one of the funniest arguments ever on Twitter.
So
Worth it for that.
the like leaping to defense of Joyce Carol Oates by arguing that she actually was hot, like arguing whether or not she used to be hot, is like the most Twitter brained argument I've ever seen.
Roundtable discussion: was Joyce Carol Oates a baddie?
Yeah, roundtable discussion. Could Joyce Carol Oates have gotten it?
Theoretically, now, in a theoretical hypothetical situation, could Joyce Carol Oates, quote unquote, get it?
I think a fun thing to end out on would be the Andrea Dworkin quote on Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe, the consummate sexual doll, is empowered to act but afraid to act, perhaps because no amount of acting, however inspired, can convince the actor herself that her ideal female life is not a dreadful form of dying.
Wow.
She died alone, possibly acting on her own behalf for the first time. Death, one imagines, numbs the pain that barbitures and alcohol cannot touch.
Hmm. Thanks, Andrea.
Yeah.
That's you know, maybe she should have made the fucking movie.
Right? Well, she's also dead, unfortunately.
Maybe she should have come back to the life and made the fucking movie.
I'm really that's from Right Wing Women, which is a book of hers I've been looking at picking up and finally reading.
I hope to scrub my mind of any memory of this.
I'm already well on the way.
Yeah.
I I did it in shifts, but I got through the film and it really wasn't worth it. I mean, I guess I feel like the last third of the movie is like where he put all of the like more interesting visuals and like ideas. I
Mm.
think because that would be like, leave the longest impact. Because when I got to that part, I saw a lot of what people were talking about that they liked about this film. But I was still remembering that it took me like 2 hours to get there. And
Yeah,
that those 2 hours like fucking sucked.
I think you probably watched it in the most ideal way, because I watched it all like sitting through, and by that point I was in such a fugue state that I didn't even understand half of what I was seeing. When it got to the part of the baby talking to her, I felt as though I was dreaming. I felt as though I had taken a lot of NyQuil, and I felt as though I had eaten an entire NyQuil chicken, and I didn't know what was happening anymore. And I still don't. I'm still in the same fugue state. I've been knocked out of my own consciousness by Andrew Dominick, in another stupid ass movie by him.
Oh my god. Hey, speaking of stupid shit, I actually didn't know this until right now. Dominic said that he did his own research by reading several of Monroe's biographies, and that he used very little of Oates' novel Blonde in the movie.
Great.
So what I said earlier, where I feel like everything in the film that kind of worked was probably what was taken, and everything else wasn't. I guess I was fucking right.
The like 2% of the Joyce Carol Oates book that ended up. Well, then why is she even involved in the like? What are you doing? What are you doing, man? There's like all of these quotes about her like involvement and her seeing the film and like approving it and stuff, but it's like barely hers.
I guess they said that the book is the Bible for the film, so my guess is he probably took like the general structure of it and then filled it in with his own things, which is fine. That's totally an acceptable way to do an adaptation.
Yeah.
It absolutely explains why it's so tonally all over the fucking place.
Very schizophrenic. Well,
bad movie. That's
bad.
Almost camp, but needs to be like an hour shorter.
Yeah, absolutely. God. Yeah. So I was wondering with regard to like, I don't know, with regard to kind of scrubbing this movie out of my mind. Do you have anything that you can kind of anything that you can prescribe? Any like barbiturates or anything?
Yeah, well, so we're actually in the golden age of fake biopics right now.
Uh-huh.
So I prescribe the new Daniel Radcliffe movie, Weird, starring Weird Al Yankovic.
Perhaps maybe I can return here to the therapy office.
Perhaps we could discuss your treatment plan
soon. Oh. Perhaps there are even more fake biopics that we can discuss here in the office.